What is happening? So sorry to make you all wait. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And I had some shit I had to do. I say that jokingly. But no, I'm here. And we're gonna get this going here. AEW Dynamite. Here's my face. Right. So yeah, it is Wednesday night. And you know what that means. As good old JR would say it, or as he does say it these days. Regardless, out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. All Elite Wrestling, Dynamite. And man, oh man, do we have a clear picture of where we're going on certain things. A lot of fun tonight. I want to get into that here in just a moment. I'm just going to pop on some music to play in the background while we talk. Something a little chill, something a little kickback. While there's a lot to be hyped for, I'm in a mellow mood. And that's cool. Because I've been able to go ahead and take a look at the show and go, you know, I enjoyed myself. I can say I enjoyed myself. And there's some... there's a couple botched spots. One in particular with our opening match that we'll go over. But regardless, thank you to everybody who's tuning in, whether it be now, later, or some other time other than then. Appreciate you checking out the show. Again, it is October 6th in the year of our Lord 2021. And yeah, out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, AEW Dynamite. And we're gearing up for full gear. No pun intended, I swear. I do want to say for the record, for those who may have ever seen it, there's a show out there that my roommate introduced me to called John Glazer Loves Gear. And if there's ever a crossover that needs to happen, it needs to be that show, Glazer Loves Gear, and the AEW pay-per-view coming up, Full Gear. The writing, to me, is all over the wall. That needs to happen. But speaking of Full Gear, we have a very clear picture of how it looks like Full Gear is going to end up turning out for the main event. As there was the ladder match to determine the number one contender for Kenny Omega's world title. And unlike other things where there's usually shenanigans, there was no shenanigans in the sense of the outcome. So anyhow, Tony Khan has also promised a big announcement. We'll end up seeing what that is. Some exciting stuff there. But show kicks off. Now this is at, like I mentioned, this is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Talking ECW country. And man, can't you just imagine like how hyped they would be for a crowd like this? I mean, that just seems like the writing's all over the wall on that one. That they would just be a fervorous bunch. Anyhow, when we started Dynamite, what I thought was kind of cool, they started off with everybody's already in the ring, ready to go. And we're talking about the big 8-man of the Elite, which is Omega, Cole, and the Bucks against Danielson, Cage, and Jurassic Express. And Marco Stunt out ringside, but yeah, we don't like Marco Stunt around here. Sure, he's a nice guy, but goddamn. Anyhow, we're starting with this match, and it's funny. I think it's done on purpose. if so, I think it's great booking in the sense of the placement of the match. This starting off and where the show ends up, I think is an excellent like bookend to their 2 hours of television tonight. And I mean that as a sincere compliment. And I'll remember why I brought that up later on down the road. In the sense of when I get to the end of the show. But we had the typical, Kenny and the Elite doing Kenny and the Elite stuff against all the baby faces. And what I thought was really interesting about it, like crowd was hot for Bryan Danielson. Like they want more of him and Omega so badly. I mean, we all want to see it. It's going to be something that's going to be amazing when it eventually happens. I mean, a 30-minute time limit draw, you're going to leave it there? I don't think so. I think too many people, we need more. We must have more. So anyhow, they did the entrances on social media like 10 minutes before the show started. So everybody's already in the ring. Love that. So it's like, oh, let's make room for more wrestling. That's what we call a win. But again, Tony Khan loves this stuff. So it's clearly shows. But anyway, the match was a lot of fun. Now there's a botch in this that is pretty kind of painful to see, which I gotta give. Well, I'll get into it in just a moment. But we start off with Jungle Boy and Nick Jackson, stemming right off from where their match for Rampage was in terms of the chemistry they had in the ring. I very much enjoyed that match. But yeah, they're doing their similar kind of formula to go ahead and start the match up and get the crowd going. I mean, the crowd's already hot for it anyway, but like just to remind people of how good everybody is. Jungle Boy works his ass off in this match, like flat out. The kid is, talked about him being special. He's a future world champion. Like, in my opinion, he's the future face of the company. That's me though. I really do think highly of the kid. But he, in my opinion, carries this match. Especially with the amount of work that he does. I don't want to say carry like everybody was just like a bunch of schmucks in there, because that's not the case. Everybody works their asses off. But if there's an MVP, I guess that's the better way to say it. If there's an MVP of the match, in my opinion, it's Jungle Boy. Which, by the way, in the next 12 months, I want to see Bryan Danielson and Jungle Boy one-on-one. I think as fans of what they do, we all want to see that, like, badly. Like, give us that. Eventually. I know it'll take some time to get there. But even though they're on the same team tonight, like, just their styles, I could just be a great match. Anyway. We do get a Kenny No Balls chant, which was started last week by Bryan Danielson. That was a lot of fun. And I am a big Kenny Omega fan, as I make no bones about it. And, champ looked great. I mean, he is the champ after all. And if I'm going to, I'm really excited for his next title defense. And I'll tell you why at the end of this, but man, so much stuff to like get excited for in AEW. And it's like just teased in little sprinkles, I think, like right in this. So many different things. Because, I mean, like, we just had that match with Jungle Boy and Adam Cole. And Adam Cole and Jungle Boy get into it here as well. And, again, it's so good. It's so good. And it's consistently good, which is what I think has been making it stand out to me the most, especially the last 2 years since Dynamite's gone on. Because it is also the 2-year anniversary mark for Dynamite. And what a 2 years. What a 2 years. I'll talk about some of my favorites as we go along here, but Luchasaurus got tagged into a huge pop at one point, and he ended up like doing this kind because he's really good with the lucha libre kind of style for such a big man, and the way he does his moonsaults and everything like that, he does it so well. And for the first time, at least that I remember, he did one from the apron to the floor, which for, again, a big man, that's like that could be not so good. And if you're not smart about how you nail that shot. And everybody had some great spots in this match. This is one that if you like fairly fast-paced action and just like consistent like spots like pretty throughout, this is a good one for that. At one point, the Bucks hit Christian with the Indie Taker from the ropes to the outside of the floor. And Christian was taken out, and then it turns into a 4-on-3. So I'm curious what they're going to do with Christian now, because Christian is still the Impact World Champion, because he did beat Kenny for it on the first Rampage. So is that their way of kind of like taking him out for AEW for a bit? Is he going to focus strictly on Impact? I don't know. But he does leave the match and does not return. Something to keep in mind. So anyhow, Nakazawa and Cutler are up to their, no good dastardly tricks, as Nakazawa and Cutler do. It was, how do I put this? There was a spot where the crowd was at such a fever pitch, and it's right when Bryan Danielson puts Kenny Omega in the cattle mutilation. And so Nick Jackson, wait, was it Nick or was it Matt? No, it was Nick. Nick Jackson comes off with a senton that was just picture perfect to break it up. And I mean picture perfect. That was one of my favorite spots of the match, because like Danielson had it on, like he just got it on good. And with that, like Kenny's arched up and everything like that, hella exposed, and Danielson is too. So for Nick to come off with that senton, like that was just like, I don't know, was one of my personal favorite spots. So towards the end of the match, Cole hits Luchasaurus with a low blow, and Luchasaurus is kind of in control at this point. And so the Elite try to do an assisted like power bomb, and they fuck it up. That is the best way I can say it. They fucked it up bad. That was, I mean, it's a rare miss. It's a rare miss. I give Omega and the Elite credit for almost no selling it. I don't want to say no selling it. They sold it, but they taunted the crowd with it. Like, yeah, we know. Shut the fuck up. Like, shit happens. But they were playing it up to the crowd when they did fuck it up. You should check it out. It's an interesting clip. I'm sure somebody out there has got it like clipped down, but yeah, the Elite really fucked that one up. Also, not with the Elite tonight were Don Callis and the Good Brothers. They were not there. So to end the match, there's a 4-way BTE trigger on Jungle Boy. Cole gets the 1, 2, 3, and yeah, the Elite win. So the botch aside, it's like an A-, in my opinion. With the botch, I gotta go like a B, maybe B+ if I want to be generous. I'll say B+ because everybody does work their ass off here. It's not like it wasn't for lack of trying, because it is a really good match overall. So I'll say a B+ overall. See, I'm all backtracking on myself. Yeah, B+. Stand by it. The botch is a really bad one, so you got to take that into consideration. So anyway, Elite get the win. We get a backstage segment with Jon Moxley. He's hyping up the ladder match for the night. And, he's done ladder matches. Not a big deal. He's got the line I really liked was that he has a 3-month-old at home and she's insane, talking about his daughter. I thought that was just deflating enough in the humor department for Moxley to not really compromise how tough he is, because he's the closest thing to a Stone Cold Steve Austin we've had since Austin. Let's be real here. The only thing that he's really lacking is the catchphrase, and that's honestly good. He doesn't need one. Not everybody needs a verbal gimmick like that. His gimmick is what he does in the ring. The look and everything else is a part of it, but really when you get down to it, Moxley's whole thing is about the work, not the image. Because he prides himself on it. He's one of the best. You want my honest opinion? Okay, yeah, you could argue Roman Reigns is number 2 overall, especially with the year he had. But you give me my pick on people I'm drafting, since WWE just had a draft. But given the opportunity and the circumstances, whatever crazy shit that may be, if I was to draft a wrestler, I would draft Moxley over Reigns any day of the week, personally. And it's not like there's that big of a gap, but there's a big enough gap to where, in my opinion, it's pretty clear that I think Moxley is the better overall package. I know people disagree. That's okay. This is, after all, just my take. Hashtag. Just kidding. But if you really want to. But anyway, Moxley says that AEW is his company and he wants his belt back. So, hey, another Moxley Omega match. You could say they've done that to death, but you know what? If the matches were bad, I think you would argue, yeah, I don't want to see it again, but their matches have always been great. So yeah, I would hella want to see that. And on top of that, it's still Omega and Moxley. It wasn't that long ago when this just wasn't going to happen. And it's just amazing where we are now, that this is just this is a modern day just rivalry for the books. You could argue for match quality, these two would be the closest to a Flair Steamboat that AEW has. I think Moxley and Omega go that well together. I think you make an argument for it. I digress. Moxley's hyped for the ladder match. That's the point. Anyway, after that, the Second City Saint, CM Punk, comes out to the ring. Great ovation for CM Punk as always. It's still surreal to see him. It's still surreal to see him back in a ring. It's a trip. So many people were like, it'll never happen. And then so many people guessed for so many years. Oh, it might happen. Maybe this is the year. This is the year. Nah, 2021, folks. And not even where you were. But the guy looks so much happier. It was funny too. I was bringing this up to somebody that Punk could be this generation's Shawn Michaels story. And what I mean by that is, when Shawn Michaels got hurt, with the back injury, he was out for 4 years. He went from being super prick to not so super prick. Depending on who you talk to, he was a different person. In the best ways, a lot of people would say. Nobody's perfect though. Kurt Hennig maybe, but not Shawn Michaels. That's an old joke. Anyway, But when Sean came back and was a different person to be around, he had, like, in my opinion, the best back half for a career I've ever seen. I think Daniel Bryan's is, or Bryan Danielson, his is going to be up there. It's going to be an interesting one to look at when it's all said and done. But the thing is, though, like, Michaels looked like a different person. You know, because he was, I mean, off the drugs, got his head screwed on straight, as much as you could believe for a pro wrestler. And people said he was just a lot different. Punk looks similar to that. Like, he does not look like the same CM Punk, and I mean that in the best way. The absolute best way. Genuinely looks happy. I mean, he looks in great shape, too. He looks a bit, a bit more jacked tonight. But Punk, he kind of, I don't want to say it's an odd promo. It's different. So at one point early on, Punk makes a point to, like, literally point down at his Jordans that he's wearing. Talks about how he came up from nothing in Philadelphia. He, lived in Philadelphia for 3 years and was like, yeah, like, on this day and this day, I, was wrestling, and I was wrestling on these days, and every other time I was, helping run a wrestling school. So, like, he lived and breathed it in Philadelphia. He made a joke that, like, I think he was trying to be funny. I don't know if it was intentional or not. But he was kind of making, like, the joke about something between cheesecake and cheese steaks. And it feels like once he kind of leaned into it for a split second about, like, which one is it, Philadelphia? Like, it's cheesesteaks, Punk. The crowd kind of was like, wait, fuck you mean? Why are you asking us? You should know. That's kind of how that one kind of came across. I'm just going to be honest. At least that's how it looked to me. So anyway, though, Punk says he wants to wrestle. And he also, what is he says, like, I'll either wrestle or buy everybody here a cheesesteak or something like that. And so the crowd basically kind of was already kind of lost at that point after the earlier cheesesteak comment. But he kind of says, like, oh, like, I'm going to wrestle. And so he challenges Daniel Garcia, who was a part of, what is it, 2.0, I think is what they're called. So, part of them, and to a match for Rampage. So Punk is going to wrestle on Friday, which is being taped, like now. That should be a fun one. I am definitely going to say that somebody's going to interfere on behalf of Team Taz. So part of the reason I say that, it feels like at the very least, Team Taz could be wrapping up their stuff with Brian Cage next week. I'll get into that in a little bit, but I think that's going to free up Ricky Starks to maybe take a shot at CM Punk, because I would love to see that match. I'm a big Ricky Starks fan. I love that dude. I remember seeing him in NWA when they were doing their relaunch, when he was Stroke Daddy Ricky Starks. But I was never fond of the Stroke Daddy part, at least to me. Absolute Ricky Starks, I think, is gold. But I remember saying, dude's a blue chipper. You don't want to lose him. NWA needed to build around guys like that. I mean, pandemic shit happens. I mean, maybe he would have stayed there. Maybe he wouldn't have. But man, when he came over to AEW, it has just been excellent. And the guy, he's so good as the FTW champion. I'm really liking it. And so, CM Punk does have unfinished business with Team Taz. So you might ask yourself, is Hook going to get in the ring? Is, Punk going to mix it up with Hook? Would you do that like now as opposed to like after, getting into it with Ricky Starks? Because we haven't seen Hook wrestle at all. So I think this whole bit with Punk and Daniel Garcia is going to be a one-off to lure Team Taz out to kind of keep that feud going for another few weeks so Punk can basically wrestle all of them. So, at least that's my thought. And I'll get into a little bit more why on reinforcement here in a moment, but I got to take a drink. All right. So, as Punk leaves, we get a real cool shot of Punk going over to a kid. So Punk takes off his shoes and he goes over to a kid at ringside dressed as Orange Cassidy and gives him his Jordans that he was wearing in the ring for the promo. So Punk gave a kid his shoes, and the kid does the after he gives them to him, the kid even does the Orange Cassidy thumbs up, just like, yeah, whatever. And it was just like, oh, the kid stuck to the gimmick. That's what we need. Kayfabe is not dead. So that was cool. Punk said one thing that I really did like in the promo, while some of the shit kind of fell off. He talked about how happy he was to be immersed back in the community, the wrestling community. That's part of the reason why I question, really, like, is he a whole new dude? Like, has he gone through like a rebirth like Shawn Michaels? Maybe not like the same exact thing. I don't believe Punk would go to religion, but did he have some sort of experience that just like kind of just cracked it open for him on doing this again? We talk about, the stories these guys tell in the ring, like over the years, right? A lot of it deals with guts, determination, heart, any of that, like depending on what angle you're running up against too, and the little things that you like to pull. But I wonder if there was ever that one thing that Punk experienced that made him just go, all right. I mean, was it heels? I mean, I'd love to know. Like, again, it's his own business. Totally get it and understand and respect it. But interesting as I find how people work, yeah, that reason would be fascinating to me. But it's so good to see him happy and clearly enjoying himself. So after this, we get I should actually say my grade for Punk. Punk, I'm going to give an A-. I would say a solid A. Actually, I will go with a solid A, because giving a kid Jordans, that's rad. Kid's going to have that memory forever. That's rad. Awesome bit to do there. The cheesesteak thing keeps it from being like an A+. But again, happy CM Punk. So anyway, we cut to a new bit, which, like, okay, so I gotta explain, like, things I like and things I don't like in pro wrestling, especially things that are produced for television. Things I do not like, or things that I do like, are segments like Jon Moxley's earlier. It's almost like he's hanging out, waiting to be called. He's not in the locker room. He's not hanging out with guys. He's in the boiler room area just because, like, he just wants to be alone before he goes out and whoops some ass. But it's like somebody catches up to him, asks him, like, his thoughts on this, and then they just, like, hit record, and that's how he cuts his promo. Makes sense. Here's what I don't like. These pre-recorded vignettes that look like something out of a movie. I like a little bit more realism in how a lot of the things work. I understand, like, you could push some boundaries and do things like that. I mean, God, like the Hardy House stuff, like, I do like all of that. But how do I put this? So, it seems unlikely cameras being in places waiting for people to talk in certain ways. It just takes it out for me. You know what I mean? I'd much rather have somebody there to interview, ask a question to initiate, keep just a little bit of a sense in there without even as weird ass questions as they ask in WWE. Like, so far in AEW, they do a pretty damn good job of being pretty straightforward to the point with the questions to move said, story along. So here's why I bring it up. There's two instances tonight where this kind of just picks that little spot at me. And I know I'm not everyone, but this is, again, just my take, not your take, my take. We cut to this outside scene, filmed at an angle, and it's Double A, Arn Anderson, outside Cody Rhodes' house, talking to himself in front of a burning barrel. Like he's a hobo or something. I mean, I know they're on the streets of Philadelphia, and I know, like, that's where Rocky's from. But this is 2021. You don't have guys standing around a barrel singing tunes that look like Sylvester Stallone's brother. You just don't have that. So anyway, so Cody, like, steps out as Arn. So Arn is talking about how Cody's gone Hollywood. And Cody steps out, goes like, Arn, what are you doing here? Like, motherfucker, he is at your house. Like, you mean to tell me you don't have, like, sensor? Like, anyway. And Arn's like, oh, you finally see me, or you finally, like, wreck it, or, call on me, basically. And so Arn kind of hints at, like sneaking in Cody's house. And Cody goes, you snuck into my house. What are you going to do? Shoot me? Because, Arn and his Glock. Cow. So Arn is burning one of Cody's expensive suits. And Cody's like, hey, that's expensive. Don't burn it. And Arn's trying to, like, strip. It's a very Rocky 3 moment. It really is. So Rocky 3, for those who haven't seen it, I first feel sorry for you. Second, I'll give you a quick little sum up. Rocky 3 deals with the character of Rocky Balboa dealing with success and fame and how it can be a distraction and bring you down and out of reality, cut your edge away that, a lot of fighters need. Now, same thing. It's more of a psychological game than it is a physical game in that. Works good for the plot of Rocky 3. We'll see how this plays out here on AEW Dynamite in the weeks moving forward. Because the thing is, this is exactly a Rocky 3 moment. Cody is being like, he's like, so Arn's burning his suit. Arn tells Cody to burn a tie, and Cody basically pulls a but I like that tie. And like, it's like we get what you're getting at here. And so Cody tells him, that he doesn't need to throw it away. And then Arn fucking slaps him. And he's like, you threw us away. And then Cody ends up, dropping the tie in the fire. And, we kind of cut away from that. So here's where it gets interesting for me, because Cody Rhodes has been booed lately. Now, will this feud with Malachi Black ever really be over? I don't know. That's a good question. Is it on the back burner right now? Maybe. And I'll go over why a little bit more. shortly here. I have a feeling I know where they're going to go with it, but I'll tell you where in just a moment. But I have a hard time grading this because while it is just kind of like a pre-filmed promo that, again, why would a camera be out there and things like that? That's the kind of shit that just, I don't know, kind of saps me out. Unless you present it like a camera crew went out there like they, used to do back in the 80s. But that's me and my taste. So anyhow, I am going to say it's a B+. I wasn't wild about it. I need to see how it plays out. And it's not like B+ is like bad. I'm like, ew, B+, get away. I just know. Like that's not how it is. Like, it's not one of the, you don't shoo a B+ away. You just don't. Because God knows WWE could use a few B+ on their freaking ratings. But the bottom line is we don't really know where this is going to go with Cody. Does he continue with Malachi Black? It's possible. I think it personally does. I don't really want it to. And I'll get into that in just a little bit as well. But Cody has pulled some amazing things out in the past. When he was doing like the supervillain thing in WWE, I thought that was great shit. I really did. And this also reads like a comic book. Because this is a very, very comic trope to do. So I'll be curious. So Arn did drop a funny line where he basically told Cody, like, if, he referenced Stardust by, painting a star on his face, and Cody had this look like, you bring that up. But anyway, I'm going to give it a B+. I got to see where this goes, because I think I just don't know. Considering I think how uninterested I've been in the Cody stuff for a while. And you know what? I think this is the right. Let's talk about Cody Rhodes. So Cody Rhodes. He's really good in the ring. I think he's a great storyteller in the ring. I think he needs to be more flexible. He wants to live up to his dad's name so badly. And I get it. Legacy is a thing with, and, I use that term, no pun intended, but it's true. Legacy is a motherfucker. Influences people to do all kinds of crazy shit, especially when there's trauma regarding it. And Cody, I miss heel Cody. I really do. Talked about recently he'd rather retire than turn heel. I have a feeling he could be... Now, I have a feeling, unless he does it soon, he could just try to weather the storm and also be similar to a Hulk Hogan type there. Like prime Hulk Hogan, but his own spin. Like never turning heel and like always finding a way to seem to get the win on the other guy. Till he runs into Malachi Black. I mean, let's be real. Well, the late great Mr. Brody Lee. Although the dog collar match was so good. But it almost feels like the moment that Cody started doing all this extra shit with the TV shows and all that, it feels like his stuff just hasn't had the same pop to it. And I think a heel turn would be great for him. I really do. I just don't think... I don't know, man. He's getting booed as a baby face who dresses just like the villain, really sadistic villain in a really popular TV show about comics. Like, he dresses like fucking Homelander. To the point where the TV show even commented on it on Twitter. Why is this all important? Cody needs to fucking have this story like really pop him back to the top. He wants to get that crowd back on his side, because when they're cheering on Malachi Black, and I get it, I'm cheering on Malachi Black. This is why, in case you're wondering. Malachi Black was so insufficiently used in WWE outside of his run in NXT. It's disgusting. I think the only person worse may be Ricochet. Yeah, Ricochet. Because that's a guy that just... Talk about two dudes that worked in a tag team, too. Oh my God, I really enjoyed them as a tag team. But it doesn't change the fact that when you've got this person who's supposed to be a super heel, Malachi Black, and the fans are cheering for him because of his work, because of his work output, and they just want to support the guy. But they're also kind of sick of the wannabe Captain America stuff that he's kind of gone on about during the pandemic stuff. Like, first promo outside, or when the pandemic hit, I think is an excellent promo. Maybe the best of his career. And I feel like it hasn't quite been there. I feel like it hasn't quite been there since, God, maybe when Brody Lee passed. That, you know, I feel like Cody hasn't been quite himself in terms of what he's been doing. But I mean, that's just my speculation. And again, that is pure speculation. I say that with any sort of insight whatsoever. But the dude needs to reinvent himself or do something to get that crowd back on his side. I don't know what. I say he should turn heel, dye the hair black again like he did for the one match, but dye it black, leave it black, and be evil Cody. Be the maniacal, like, anime boss. Like, he would nail that. He really would. Anyhow, next. We have a video package for Bobby Fish, who is challenging Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship. We got Adam Cole here. All of a sudden, his Undisputed Era running buddy, Bobby Fish, is here. I wonder how long Kyle O'Reilly has on that deal. But if AEW can get him, holy shit, yeah. We'll see. I think they're going to fuck up O'Reilly over in NXT with that new NXT 2.0. But hey, I'm not here to talk about that. Fuck that noise. Back to Dynamite. So Sammy has a little promo thing for, like, while the entrances are going on. Basically how he bought, Fuego del Sol a new truck. He did what he said he was going to do and all that kind of thing. So we get a fairly good match here between Guevara and Bobby Fish. Bobby Fish was working stiff, man. Like, there were some shots that he was laying in Sammy that I was just like, God damn, like, I wouldn't want to take those. But the crowd was really into Sammy Guevara, which is a great sign. Kid's a future world champion one day. But the crowd is definitely getting behind him more and more. The thing about this match, so towards the end, Fish hits, what is it, a Super Falcon arrow from the top rope. That feels like one of those moves you shouldn't be kicking out of, personally. And that was picture perfect too. But my God, do I feel bad for Bobby Fish's spine and how that could have compressed. But Fish looked good. Mike's skills in check. He looked in great shape. But out of nowhere, almost like RKO-ish, but not quite. Guevara hit a GTH, got the 1-2-3. Great showing by Bobby Fish. I would not be surprised if Bobby Fish gets signed. Do I think they need him? No. I would like to see Bobby Fish. You know where I like to see Bobby Fish given his wrestling style? I like to see him go to NWA or Japan. He's already been to Japan. That's how he got his like main start and all. Go to NWA. Like, they could use guys like that hit hard, those kind of matches, because you've got that like much smaller area, so the sound is just you're gonna pow hear that shit. And so if you do that with guys who can really, throw that, like your Murdochs and your, Bobby Fishes and that kind of thing, I think you got like a style that you can kind of foster in there that could really draw some eyes to the product. But if I was Fish, that's where I'd want to go if he's not signed. It was a good showing though. I would give this match an A-. Wasn't perfect, but wasn't terrible. Pay-per-view? No, I wouldn't watch it. I would be a little disappointed if this was a pay-per-view match. For a Dynamite match, it's solid, a lot of fun. But here's where it gets weird. This is, I don't want to ding it for this. So, after the match, those dipshits, American Top Team, come out. And, oh man, talk about a stable I did not know I didn't want. Shit, man, am I over this. So I like, Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. And by the way, congratulations to All Ego Ethan Page for his kid being born today. That happened. So he was not a Dynamite, obviously. Scorpio Sky was. So anyway, American Top Team, which is all those guys, they surround the ring, including that dipshit fucking Lambert. And they all start beating down Guevara. And Junior Dos Santos is really getting involved in this. And there's reason why for it. So Dos Santos is really getting into it. Then eventually, so there's a bunch of people on one. My first thought is, where is the Inner Circle, right? Logical. Out first is Fuego del fucking Sol. I get that this is his dude, but in my opinion, the moment he got that truck, his part in Guevara's TNT title run should have been over. Guevara needs... If it's not a situation like this where it's like 4-on-1, Guevara needs to really stand on his own by himself. But the thing is, when it's like this, 5-on-1, 4-on-1, I can't remember exactly. What'd you have? You had one guy come out instead of his stablemates, who he was wearing the vest for tonight. But anyway, they start beating them down. And then we get Jericho's music. Then all of a sudden, and this is after a considerable amount of time in how you present this kind of thing. Then you get Jericho and Hager. They help clear house. Basically, Lambert challenges them to a 6-man tag in Miami when Rampage is there, which is, I guess, happening soon. So the match is Guevara, Jericho, and Hager against Men of the Year and Junior Dos Santos. But Jorge Masvidal will be their bodyguard, which clearly he's there to just cost them the victory. Like, yeah. And the whole time that Lambert's talking, the crowd's going, shut the fuck up. And Jericho plays into it. And he's like, I couldn't hear you or anything you said. Basically saying that the crowd was too loud, which it wasn't. But, that's fun to play with. So we're going to get that match. Next, we have that little. I'll grade that segment separately. I'm gonna say it's a B because I really think for Sammy Guevara, this is such a, I think in my opinion, delicate run, considering what he's been through in the past, or what he's been a part of. Let me rephrase. That I think this title, like, he needs to come out looking like $1 million when this thing is over. Up his stake, the whole bit. And I don't know. I'd like to see Sammy kind of do more of his own thing. I really would. Really, really would. I'm not really looking forward to it because the thing is, I don't really care for the Inner Circle too much. Like, Hager's cool, kind of cool. I respect what he does. Jericho, I don't know. I was appreciating this run of Jericho until other things came to my knowledge that I didn't care for. But yeah. Anyway, I give this little segment a B just for the crowd hype. The crowd was into it because the crowd cut off Lambert and sang. So that was kind of cool. Cut backstage, the Acclaimed are hanging out. Max Caster does a rap. They're taking on the Luchas for the tag titles at Rampage. I will love watching Penta slap the shit out of Max Caster. Go Lucha Brothers. Such a short segment, it doesn't get a grade. Oh yeah, and so Tony Khan promised a big announcement. And we get the announcement of the TBS Championship, which will be basically the equivalent to the TNT title, but for the women. And the thing was, Shivani was there with Ref Aubrey, and Aubrey's actually holding the belt. And it looks just like the TNT title, but with a TBS logo, and the little banner is blue, a light blue, sky blue. But here's the thing. The belt is bigger, arguably nicer than the women's world title. And they just replaced it. Because Sheeta had the one for her whole reign. And then when, Baker eventually beat her, they brought out a new title, which was much bigger. And because, Riho was the first women's champion, and, she's really, really small. So I imagine that belt was initially designed to be really small because she wore it. She didn't carry it. So, but anyway, though, the TBS title, if I'm Britt Baker, I would make that a part of the gimmick so quickly. Like, how dare you make a title better looking than mine that, and I'm the champ of the world. That'll be interesting to see. But anyhow, they're going to do a tournament for the TBS Championship. And I love me some tournaments. It's going to start on January 5th once Dynamite moves over to TBS. Something to look forward to. And, I would see if you can get wrestlers from other promotions. That would be super rad. People that you may not expect. If that forbidden door is open, someone's got to walk through at some point. So that'll be interesting. I'm excited to see who wins that. I personally think considering it's January, because I question if she'll go undefeated the whole time. Jade Cargill or maybe Sky Blue. It depends if Britt still has the title in January. There is a world where she does not. Because it just depends on how long they want to keep the title on somebody, because they've had some lengthy reigns recently, and you don't necessarily have to keep just upping the amount of time, but we'll see. But yeah, that belt is a nice looking belt. And bigger than the women's world title, which I think is hilarious. So that segment, for the whole sake of it, gets an A. And I love seeing Tony Schiavone in the ring anyway. 1 second here. So we get a backstage interview with Jim Ross, with Darby Allin, which good old JR is still good on commentary. He's not great anymore. I would like to see them use Jim Ross for these interviews and doing big matches. Main events, mainly. I think all title matches would be cool, but then you're just having them on half the show. But at the same time, that's just, my opinion. I really like the pairing of Excalibur and Taz. That just does it for me for some reason. Regardless, we get Jim Ross doing an interview with Darby Allin, talking about MJF and the lines that he crossed, talking about Darby's past, being 5, drunk uncle driving and losing somebody. And, Darby says why he paints his face. Like, half of him died that day, so he paints half of his face. He talks about how, Allin basically says that everybody expected him to nail MJF, but he didn't. And he's not about that because, it's what you want. And basically Darby said that MJF is going to find out soon what he's all about. And I like this segment a lot because I think Darby really does a good job of showing some really good emotion with that, at least in my opinion. I really dug it. For me, it gets an A. The kid is starting to shine, without a doubt. Speaking of Darby, his match is up next, where it's him again, with Sting in his corner against Nick Camarado and QT Marshall in his corner from the factory. Nick Camarado, who looks like my roommate says he calls him Zangief. I think he looks more like Bruiser Brody to me. This dude is just a powerhouse who moved around pretty decently. He was like, I think the closest thing they had to like Braun Strowman for a long time, but it was really nice. Like guys like Camarado got a lot of ring time, a lot of TV time with Dark and things like that, that are filmed typically before the Dynamites and all that, before they started kind of switching things up recently. But the thing is that like that gives those guys time. And Camarado, he's not perfect, but he's a very serviceable big man in pro wrestling. His power slams are just great. And, this is a kind of a typical Darby Allin match. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It just doesn't quite have the same... belief that he could lose. Like, I didn't think at all for one moment that he was going to lose Nick Camarado. But he nails him with a coffin drop onto his back. And that was a pretty slick looking move. And Camarado sold it really well, including the pin. And yeah, Darby with the clean win there. Marshall gets in the ring. Nails Sting with a diamond cutter out of nowhere. Sting didn't do shit to him. But Sting no-sells it, gets up, hits friggin' QT Marshall with a low blow and a scorpion death drop to pop the crowd. And then, guess what Sting did? He's doing the whole outsiders point thing to Darby after that, trying to remind the crowd that, yeah, I did that to pop you guys, but it's about him. Like, I mean, if you got Sting and he's going around and literally just giving a scorpion death drop here and there and wrestling every so often. And God, he just came off that amazing performance in New York. Fucking Sting, man. It was really cool to see the focus be redirected. And I love that about this whole pairing of Darby and Sting. And I've really enjoyed this. It's an A- for me. Because it's not a boring match at all. It's just a typical Darby match. And again, there's like, if that's your floor, and that's kind of the thing, like I don't want to say floor, but I think this is more of him kind of like when Shawn Michaels was like really going in like 95 and just putting it great match, great match, great match, great match. Like it was nothing. Kind of the same thing. Like there's so much good, like you kind of have to like, what's the less good and how less good is it? And even then, of course, it's still really good and better than so many other things that people think are good. Think about that. Yeah. But anyway, so I said that I had an issue with how certain pre-recorded things come across, especially when it looks like daytime TV versus potentially something being filmed backstage in a locker room. I mentioned it earlier regarding the outdoor segment with Cody and Double A. Well, now we get one that's actually in supposedly the arena, and that's with Dark Order. I love Dark Order. John Silver is the funniest. Oh man, like good old Johnny Hungy, man. Like guy's gonna be a star. That dude's gonna be a TNT champion one day, and I am all about it when it does happen. So they have this. This does not feel like a conversation that would just get random. Like for the fact that they're posing for to have this conversation, like just takes me out of the conversation. It's weird. But they talk about trying to be on the same page and things like that. And Anna Jay is kind of the one to kind of like go, hey, like, are we cool? And like, yeah, no, we're cool. We'll see how this goes, but it came across too produced. Yeah, I'm gonna go with a B-. Didn't really care for it all too much, but again, it's still so much better than what WWE puts out there. And again, when you judge one thing, you got to be clear about what you're judging it against. And I'm giving it as broad scope as above all. And so even then, for something I don't care too much for on AEW, I don't hate it. And yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. Then we cut back to good old Tony Schiavone. Damn, I'm rambling here tonight. Tony Schiavone's got Dante Martin in the ring. And the kid speaks. He speaks pretty well. I'm really glad that he does. He has got, so he's 21 now? He might have just turned 21. The kid has got probably the single best upside to a wrestler I may have ever seen. Because he does so much so well now that once he learns really real ring psychology on how to call a match in the ring and all of that, he could go down as one of the GOATs. He really could. The kid's, in my opinion, that talented. But the crowd is super into him, and that's awesome because he has shown out this summer. And basically kind of cuts like a standard, early on babyface heel. I'm a thorn in a lot of people's side, even though I haven't really beat the best. And he talks about how he's here to fight anyone. Lights go out. And then all of a sudden, Malachi Black is in the ring. Takes his mask off, spits the black mist, gets him with the kick. And the thing about this is, so the black mist is different for me. I wish it was dark red. I just do. It feels like too... Nah. Yeah, I just wish the mist was a different color than black. But hey, I get it. House of Black, everything is black in the House of Black. So I do get that. And of course, that's kind of what the comment is that he leads with, because once he spits the mist, lights go out, come back on. Dante Martin's on the outside. Malachi Black with the microphone goes, "The House of Black accepts." So we're going to get those two at some point. So my question is, going back to Cody, is Cody going to be somebody that tries to make the save for when Dante Martin goes up against Malachi Black? Because here's the thing. By booking this match... Okay. I think you guys will know what I mean. I gotta word this just right. I can see Cody being the one who's been booking this. I really can. For his own storyline, right? Because this is how it really comes across to me. So if he is, he's putting up someone super popular, homegrown, that people are behind in Dante Martin, up against a guy who should be booed because he's a super heel, Malachi Black, as a way to kind of gauge where the fans really are. And I wonder if both guys will be cheered. Because Cody's trying to figure out a way to get his, fan base back after being booed against Black. So if you want him to win that feud and you want to be in his corner, if you go out there and rescue Dante Martin after he got his ass kicked, well, they might get behind you again. That's, I think, the gamble they're trying to take after the way Cody was booed out of the building last time. We'll find out. But you heard it here first on Just My Take. Well, at least maybe. That's going to be an interesting match because Black is so good in the ring and Dante can fly. I cannot wait to see how that shakes out. After that, we got the FTW champion, Ricky Starks, out in the ring. Talks about the history of the FTW championship. Talks about how, Taz had the mindset to be this kind of champion. And he has the same mindset as Taz. But he also wanted to talk about Brian Cage and how he was like, yeah, if he was here, I would have wrestled him even in a Philadelphia street fight, but he's not here and that kind of thing. And then fucking Brian Cage runs out, which, by the way, that Terminator ripoff, that that just cut that out and just play the song. I think you got something better there. That's just my take. But he comes out there and starts getting his hands on Starks. Starks gets pulled out by Hook and Hobbs. And there's that. Which we are getting a match on Friday. I'll talk about more of that in just a little bit here. So then we get a new little segment where a bunch of the women who are going to be in the tournament for the TBS champion kind of give their opinion on it. You got your Thunder Rosas, your Sky Blue, Ruby Soho, Jade Cargill. There's a world where it's Cargill. There's also a world where it's Soho. I can see all of those. It just depends on how they do it. So then we get to what I find to be the most interesting match of the night. And what I mean by that is this did not go how I expected. We had Hikaru Shida, former women's world champion, go up against Serena Deeb, who was coming back from injury again. She looked great, by the way, so I think that injury is probably fully healed now. She had a knee injury that she had work done on. But we had those two, and AEW was hyping this because they're like, when she wins, it's going to be her 50th win. She'll be the first woman to 50 wins in AEW. Like, yeah, that's cool. Hell of a thing. And I'm sitting here going, well, you just gave the fucking ending away. I guess I know how this match is going to go. But here's the thing. It doesn't go that way. First of all, this is a solid match. I would have loved to have given them 5 more minutes, personally. Because I think it took them a little bit of time to get warmed up to each other, and once they did, it just started flowing. Serena Deeb looked great. She really, really did. But here's the thing. So she kicked out of the Falcon Arrow. Serena Deeb got Shida tap out. I don't think I've ever seen her tap out other than the match with Britt Baker. So Serena Deeb, via submission, beats Hikaru Shida. And here's the thing too, AEW had this little plaque thing, this little statue, like award for her made up. And so she doesn't win. She's still at 49. So what do? They have Serena Deeb use that as a weapon to knock out Shida. And I think we're going to get more of this. But we got a clear understanding that Serena Deeb is going to be a heel. And the thing is that they were working on that before she got hurt each time. But they were working on that. But yeah, Shida tapped out. That was crazy. So this next part, I don't love or hate. Like, it's fine, but I'm just like not fond of how it was put together. So backstage, Alex Marvez catches up to Darby Allin. Congrats on the win. Tony Khan said that, he's going to have a match against MJF next week on Dynamite if he wants it. Of course, Darby Allin's like, yes. And then all of a sudden, this limo comes out of nowhere, and these masked guys get out and beat the shit out of Darby Allin. It is so clear it is the Pinnacle, it's not even funny. First of all, if you're wearing masks like that, why are you rolling around in a high-profile limo? I just want to say that out loud. Second of all, it doesn't take fucking 2 brain cells to figure that out. You might as well just lean into it. Lean into it. And like, yeah, we're the Pinnacle. We do what we want. No one's going to say shit if they know it's us. But anyway, I digress. I did like MJF choking out Darby Allin with his own skateboard. I did like that. So we get a card lineup for Rampage, and we got CM Punk against Daniel Garcia, Jade Cargill versus Sky Blue, Ricky Starks against Brian Cage in a Philly street fight for the FTW Championship, and the Lucha Brothers taking on the Acclaimed for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. It's going to be an interesting one. So, I think we got yet another stable popping up in AEW. So, Lio Rush is back. And, I almost forgot. My apologies. The Hikaru Shida match gets an A. Solid A. The Darby Allin thing with Pinnacle gets an A-. I'd get a full solid A if they were unmasked and just owned it. But anyway, we cut to the back, and it's Lio Rush, who's back in AEW after retiring. But he's talking to Dante Martin, and basically he reaches out to Dante Martin to basically be business partners. It's going to be very interesting because, I thought Dante Martin spoke really well for himself, but Lio Rush has that gift for gab. If he can help get anyone more over, it is, Dante Martin could certainly use that because that kid is absolutely special. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where it goes. It was taped, so I didn't see Leo Rush actually there. I imagine he'll be coming around on the. I imagine he'll have maybe more of a face to face. It could even be over like Dark and Dark Elevation. Could be. I mean, we'll see. But he did say that they'll talk soon, and I'm gonna go ahead and give that like a B plus. Wasn't the greatest thing or anything like that, but I'm excited to see where it goes. Because Dante Martin deserves all the opportunity. Guys, just so good. Anyhow, last segment before the main event. Tony Schiavone is backstage interviewing Dr. Britt Baker. And basically, Baker gives a great little promo of, give y'all something else to fight amongst yourselves while, like, instead of just bothering her and obsessing over her. And she'll be, like, looking down on everyone as they fight. Like, I can see her, like, kind of like, watching them in the Coliseum and shit. But yeah, she's badass on the stick, still nails it each time. And, yeah, it's going to be fun to see. It'll be interesting to see if Britt Baker ends up in that tournament. Could she lose it to somebody between now and January? It's a long way to go. She does deserve a long reign, but how long of a reign do you go when you're just coming off Hikaru Shida, who was champ for what, a year? Solid year? So what do you do with that? I don't say you want to necessarily go a solid year Britt Baker right now, but I mean, who the fuck knows? Anyhow, main event time. Jon Moxley versus Pac versus Andrade El Idolo versus Orange Cassidy versus Lance Archer versus Matt Hardy versus the Joker. Winner gets shot at Kenny Omega. I am going to just say the basics because I just realized how long I've been doing this. And also, I encourage you to watch the match. This is a lot of fun. A lot of matchups teased. Really enjoyed it. Long and short of it is, Joker was Hangman Page. Page ends up winning. Page will challenge Kenny Omega next, apparently, for the AEW World Championship. Full Gear's 5 weeks away. Sounds like a good time to have a title match. Sounds like a good time for Omega to lose the title because I think since it would be on November 13th, Omega will be the first AEW champion to hit the year mark. By just a few days, too. Which good for Kenny, because he's put in the work, man. The classics he's been a part of this year. But anyway, Hangman Page is back, and that crowd pops so fucking hard. Go watch the match. Yeah. Watch it for him. Watch how the crowd reacts. When he wins, crowd goes ape shit. He's drinking a beer on the top of the ladder after he pulls the chip. And the bottom line, like, it's funny because, like, he drinks the beer like Stone Cold, even though, like, Moxley doesn't. But Moxley has the, like, I'll whoop your ass attitude way more than Hangman does. But the Millennial Cowboy is back, and he won the ladder match, and we're gonna get Omega and him. Like, this has got to be where you have Omega drop it. And trust me, as a Kenny Omega fan, do I want to see him drop it? No. But I imagine the dude wants to go like, rest for a few months. Anyhow. It's time. Omega with the title. Been a great year. I have personally loved it. But it's time for him to drop it. Who do I drop it to after Page? That's going to be an interesting one. I question if you have someone like Omega be a 2-time champ that quick. I personally think you got to go with someone else. I would love to see Miro have a run with it now that he dropped the TNT title. He did tweet out last week that him and his God do need to talk. But I imagine after Hangman wins the title, he's going to need some challengers. And Miro, I think, would be a great matchup for him. And I wouldn't be mad if Miro's the one to actually end it when the time comes. I mean, we'll see how it goes. But we do got to ask ourselves, do you think it is possible that Hangman Adam Page defers his title shot to someone else? So, I mean that a couple different ways. A couple different questions. Do you think he would hand that off to Bryan Danielson? Personally, I don't think so. Do you think he would say, I want to hold on to this until Revolution, kind of like a Money in the Bank sort of thing, but actually calling a shot for Revolution? Because do you want your main event to be Hangman winning the title for the first time? Because I almost think that if Revolution is supposed to be your WrestleMania, I mean, yeah, maybe. See how it goes. But that's what, like, I don't know. That's just my take on that. And if you do wait for, Revolution, do you put Bryan Danielson back in the driver's seat? Man, I don't know. Do you make the change now? I mean, Full Gear was partially developed by Page himself in terms of the name. It's going to be interesting to think about. How much longer do you draw this out? Because the time is coming where Hangman is going to beat Kenny Omega for the world title very, very soon. But now it's a matter of finding when. That's a big if. But I'm excited for where it's going, where it's been. Main event gets an A+. I think it's a great main event. Ladder matches are great, and these guys put themselves through hell. And that crowd for Hangman, that's stuff dreams are made of right there. And I'll tell you this right now, it's good to see him back. The Millennial Cowboy. The win at the end really bumps this up for me. But if I'm going to be fair, I think I got to go with... I'm going to go with a solid A, not an A+. There's enough things in there that I'm not over the moon about that kind of can't make it an A+. So, but a solid A though nonetheless, because the A+ is that main event. And that is no fucking joke. Great main event. But overall, I'm going to give the show... yeah, I'm going to do that. And I'll be interested to see how that turns out. Rampage will be fun. We'll see what CM Punk's got in store for everybody on Rampage. They're trying to boost those ratings there. The ratings have not been great. But anyway, folks, I am going to get out of here. If you like the content, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Find me on Twitter at the O to the J. And I'll be back on tomorrow night with more Alien Isolation as we celebrate October and Halloween and all that with a spooky playthrough. But anyway, don't do anything I wouldn't do. It's not much, but it's something. Wear a mask, get vaccinated, do it for others, not just yourself. See you guys on the flip side.